My name is Khalid Jarrar. I am a Palestinian Jordanian Iraqi and I live in Jordan now. I lived in Iraq for the last 15 years till I recently had to come to Jordan after I was arrested by the Iraqi Mukhabarat, the Iraqi version of the CIA. And then I felt that my life is threatened and I had to leave the country, and I came to Jordan to continue my studies to graduate here. Living in Iraq before the war was very different from what Iraq is like now today. I mean, before the war, if you just live your normal life, you go to school, you work, you just live like a normal person. You can live normally as long as you just don't criticize anyone and anything. You can live your life peacefully most of the time. The problem now is that you just don't know who's the enemy. You don't know where the red lines are. You don't know who's going to shoot you and when. You just, whenever you go, wherever you go, there are red lines by everyone. You can get shot by mistake. You can get shot for any reason that you never thought of at any day, even if you're inside your house now. And this is like a normal situation for any country under occupation. Before the war, basic life needs were available for a regular person. At least, water, electricity, security. Electricity was bad for a few years. Then at least the last year before the war, it was getting very much better. We used to have almost 24 hours of electricity a day, with the few hours of cutoffs. What happens now is that we lost even the simplest basic life needs in Iraq. You cannot leave your house because you don't feel safe enough to leave, and because you can't leave your house also alone, empty. So it's a very difficult situation. We don't have electricity, we don't have water, we don't have security. Even the Russian cars that was supporting millions of Iraqi people for years since the sanctions is now almost stopped, and even the ones that are still were getting very, very few amounts of food, and a lot of the items were removed. Other than that, just the fact that the country is occupied is a disaster itself.
Thinking where it happened when the US came?
Well, usually, most of people in this region, if not all of them, all of people in this region have an experience through the history with invasions and with occupations, and the relation of the United States with all of that. What happens in Palestine and the American role in that, and the way the American government is supporting Israel in this, and also in all the last wars that happened, like in Afghanistan, the pressures on Syria, Iran, all the countries in the region. What I'm trying to say is that people don't trust the United States generally because we have a very bad history with it. So I don't think that people expected, I know that I didn't expect it, that this invasion would bring any good to Iraq. I didn't have a single doubt that this occupation is not coming for the good or interest of Iraqi people, but for its own interests. And this is what's happening, and this is what will happen to the end. It's just like any other occupation. At the beginning of the invasion, at least the very small percentage of people that were hoping, that had this small hope inside themselves that things will get better and that this occupation will bring them any good, that small tiny space of hope disappeared gradually. Actually, the American government created enemies in Iraq since the beginning of the invasion till now, by killing civilians, by destroying houses, by destroying the infrastructure, by all what's happening in Iraq now, the scandals that you hear about, the Abu Ghraib scandals and other scandals that you don't hear about. So what happened is that since the beginning of the invasion, even that small percentage of people that had small hope that the American invasion would bring them any better life, that hope disappeared with time when they saw the kind of bombing and killing that happened among civilians, the use of cluster bombs. Many civilian places were hit with cluster bombs, including the neighborhood just right beside my neighborhood. Many civilians were killed by cluster bombs and still are being killed by the leftovers from these bombs, and by all the killing among civilians, the homes that are being destroyed, the wrong political decisions that were made, the very high percentage of unemployment that was created, scandals like the ones that you heard about in Abu Ghraib and other scandals that you didn't hear about. All of these things created more enemies, more hate towards the state, and more people are willing to fight against it. There was a series of huge political mistakes. Decisions were made that made people more and more angry. With the beginning, when they started to appoint people that to control and govern Iraq, when they started to appoint governments one after one, just people that Iraqi people don't know them, that came with the Americans, as we say, Iraq came on the American tanks and were appointed to rule them. So it's like Iraqis felt that nothing has changed, and then all the decisions that came after that, dissolving the army and dissolving many other governmental structures and associations, which basically denied millions of people of their jobs, and became like, according to some statistics, 75 to 80% of people are unemployed. So other than that, all the way that the political process was working, and all the way that the military process was working, attacking civilians, attacking villages and cities, all of these things made it very clear to Iraqi people that this occupation is not going to bring them any good. It's hurting them, and pushed them to resist it by time. The first time I saw the American army in Iraq, it was the same day when Baghdad fell, and basically we were in my uncle's house because we had to flee our area. The battle was basically like in the streets, very close to our house, so we had to leave everything and just run away, basically. When we were in my uncle's house, and we had a small generator there, and we were watching the news, and Sahaf was saying at that time that the American army is never going to go into Baghdad. We're going to destroy them on the borders of Baghdad and everything. And then just hours after that, we were standing on the roof and we saw an Iraqi tank close to the point where we were standing. And then my little brother said, "Wait, that's an American flag." And we were all shocked. It was an American army right beside us in the middle of Baghdad. And actually, it was a very big surprise. I want to make it clear that although like the very majority of Iraqi people were against Saddam, and that we personally, me and my family, were like against Saddam from like historically, but still at the same time, when we're talking about an American invasion, any Western invasion, any foreign invasion to Iraq, we would defend Iraq for sure against that invasion, whoever it is. So for us, at least basing on the statements that Sahaf was saying on the media all the time, and about the confidence that they were giving to people that the army is very ready and that they have plans and schedules and all, So we all were waiting for these things to happen. We were waiting for the thing to happen. When Sahaf was saying that there's no way they're going to be able to get through the walls of Baghdad, and we're waiting for it to happen. And then the moment we saw the American army inside the city, it's a feeling of shock and humiliation. And then people started to take off their underwear and wave it in front of the American tanks to be able to go safely to their houses. It was a shock that lasted for months, actually, for most of people. No one knew what to think, no one knew what to do. We were all just shocked. The unexpected happened, and it's just too terrible to realize it and come with conclusions at that time. It took us months after that to actually begin to understand that we're now legally occupied, and this occupation is kind of occupation that comes to stay. We realized totally that all the coalition forces and all the American forces that came from thousands and thousands of kilometers away and spent all these billions of dollars are coming to stay, and that they're going to build like fixed military bases to keep the army there, like for as long as you can imagine. And this is exactly what happened. Actually, we didn't doubt for 1 second that this invasion will end very soon, and we didn't expect for 1 second that they are going to leave any soon. And this is not going to happen unless they're forced to leave. The thing is that all the international laws, all the human rights laws, all the UN laws, or whatever international humanitarian laws you're talking about, are just not working. It's not the time of political arguments anymore, because they stopped working. The occupation was illegal. It happened against the will of Iraqi people, against the will of the international community, against all laws, all the international laws. Still it happened. And I don't think that there's any political way to make the American army or the coalition armies to leave unless they're forced. And they cannot be forced to leave except if we could raise awareness inside the United States and inside the countries of the coalition forces to tell the people what the armies are really doing inside Iraq and what are the crimes that are being committed in their names. And at the same time, it won't be pushed to leave, and it won't resist enough pressure to make people inside these countries demand their governments to pull their armies. And I think that the way it's left to make the people inside the countries that the governments are involved in this invasion to push on their governments to pull out their troops is by it seems that, unfortunately, that it's by just making them lose as much money and as possible. With these losses, which is something we all hate to see happening, but seems to be the only way. With these losses, the losses of money and men, more and more internal pressure is generated on the governments of the coalition, to make them put the troops back to their countries. And I think this is the only way. I think that this occupation will not end by political ways. It will end when they are forced to leave. Resistance as a principle is a very legitimate idea. It's guaranteed by all laws of international community and all international and humanitarian laws, and also by all religions at the same time. To defend yourself, to resist occupation, is our right for sure. Is Iraqis' right for sure. What's happening is that resistance is being mixed with terrorism, and the governments of the coalition is trying to put big focus on the terrorism that's happening to discard the resistance. And this seems to be affecting the international community, but it's not affecting Iraqis inside Iraq. Because Iraqis inside Iraq call it muqawama, they call it muqawama, which is resistance. Any person that targets civilians intentionally is a terrorist, for sure. And this is what most all Iraqis think. While among 60 to 70 operations a day that happens against coalition forces, it happens that some accidents happen within these 60, 70 operations every day, and civilians die. And this is something we all cry for, and we all want it not to happen, but it just happens. But what's happening is that the media, the Western media, is focusing on these operations, the ones that cause casualties among civilians, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing the resistance can do about it. Because of the lack of experience of the resistance, and also because the Americans usually go like inside civilian neighborhoods between the streets and try to avoid the highway roads, to be protected among civilians. So it causes casualties between civilians. But the truth is that when you look at it from another point of view, this never happened, whether resistance or even terrorism, never happened or existed in Iraq before the occupation. And the only reason it was created at the first place, and the only reason it is now happening, and the only reason it's not stopping, is because of the occupation and because it's staying in Iraq. Do you know the blogger Riverband once wrote about Zarqawi? You know that the story or the weapons of mass destruction was used to attack Iraq and to destroy the infrastructure and to occupy the country. This story that turned out to be a total lie. And so now, since it's over, Riverband, the Iraqi blogger, once wrote about Zarqawi and said that he's like a very good story. He's small and mobile and can be like any place to justify any attack on any city, any place. I never saw Zarqawi. No Iraqi have ever seen Zarqawi. I know people from north to south. I know people in Fallujah, a lot of people. I know people in the west. I know a lot of Sunni people, and of course a lot of Shia people, and also people in the north. I've never seen anyone that saw Zarqawi or even was close to him. The resistance is coming from inside Iraq. It's Iraqi. And what the Western media is trying to tell the world is that the resistance is coming from outside, from Arabs, from terrorists, from foreigners, which is not true. And the proof on that is that based on the numbers of even the Arabs that are arrested in the American prisons, it's a very, very small percentage. I would say that over 90% of the resistance are Iraqis. And there are Arabs that are getting into Iraq from different countries, and that's true. But they are a very small minority, and their effect is not really that big. The resistance is coming from inside Iraq, because Iraqis want to resist the occupation, and they're resisting and losing in that way their lives, risking their lives and their money and their jobs and their families. They dedicated everything to resist this occupation because they feel it's unfair and it's against their interests and it's killing their people and taking their wealth.